Hi, I'm Ellie Drew, your Clairvoyant Researcher. In these next episodes, we are going to deal with the issue of forgiveness. And we are going to get some teachings directly from the architecture of reality and the architects of reality. Before we began filming this section, we went into prayer and meditation to ask what kind of guidance to have for you, particularly for this segment. And here's the information that I got. This is all a created consensus reality, which means that we are all making agreements to how this world is. We also imprint into our energy body agreements. I'll never forgive myself. Life sucks. Things never work out. As you put these thought forms, thoughts are things. As you put these thought forms bubbling out into your environment, it can actually collect with other thought forms and grow and grow and grow until you really believe that it's a reality, when in fact it is not. It is simply thought forms that you have made agreements to. I'm going to tell you about Murray. Murray was a man who came into my Qigong classes every Wednesday night. This man had a very unusual skin cancer, that his epidermis layer would simply slough off. It wouldn't stay on. It was on his eyes, it was literally everywhere on his body. This man also, in the middle of summer in Tucson, Arizona, when I lived there at that time, he would come to class in the middle of the summertime with a winter coat on and a winter stocking cap. He had to wear compression socks and compression armbands. The only relief he could get is if he put lavender oil on him, and so he was very stinky because a lot of lavender oil is very smelly. He had the perfect attitude, the perfect diet, this is a man who was doing everything right. And it's one of the very frustrating things that we deal with in the healing community, is that things that should be so simple to heal, people die from, and then very complicated things, very aggressive cancers, people live from. And so in my healing practice over the years, I always called it the X factor. There is some other factor that we are not aware of that overrides our current thought patterns, even when we hope for, pray for, and wanting to make a change. Why do we still get stuck in the same repeating patterns? Why? As I continued to question my spirit communicators about this particular issue, I said, I want to be able to help people. Healers, ministers, religious people of all faiths, they want to help people. We're all wanting to help people. What is this X factor that interferes with our true ability to heal? And it all comes down to the power of your mind that you have imprinted into your own soul field, how your life is going to play out. Now in Remember 3, I'm going to be teaching you all about how you imprint your soul field. And I call it conscious manifesting or pushing power. How do we push power? It's when you use the geometric formula for transformation. You have a thought, you combine it with emotion and visualization or imagination, and if you're angry, frustrated, scared, it drops you in and locks you up and links you up to your power. When you have that formula, you may be imprinting things into your field that you have not been conscious of. So let me tell you about Murray. This man was doing everything right. And then how could it be that his body wasn't healed? Because we're constantly told that if you do everything right, you're going to have a particular outcome. So we have an X factor here. This is what happened to Murray. And I was so thrilled to get this information because it really created what we're going to be learning here in this section, which is going to be sacred forgiveness ceremony. So I invited Murray up to my office one night, and I sunk in. I went in and I was just looking to see if he could get any guidance for any additional things that he might not be doing, that he could be doing. And I got absolutely no information whatsoever. Everything was clear. He was doing everything right. And so I decided, okay, I've got to go check in with somebody else. I'm going to go talk to the big guys. I change my frequency. I sink in even deeper. And I see an image of him in another lifetime with a T detonation device. And this T detonation device goes off. And later on, he finds out that as a result of him doing this, 30 men, women, and children were killed. It was not something that was his fault, but he took it on. So what happens is that we wound ourselves when we take something on. And because I know how we imprint our soul field, I knew as a psychic to go and look and find and hear what he said, what he made an agreement to, because remember, everything is about agreements. What he made an agreement to when he found out that he had accidentally killed 30 men, women, and children. When I found myself traveling through time back to that moment in that lifetime, I was following him around like a little shadow, waiting for that moment when he made that agreement. And this is the agreement he made. I can never forgive myself for these 30 lives. I will never be able to forgive myself until I pay for these 30 lives. Imagine that. Now, this is what he was experiencing. When I popped into this lifetime where he realized that he had killed 30 men, women, and children, I saw in my inner vision, look on the bottom right-hand side here, a little egg show up. And pretty soon there were 30 eggs that showed up. And 2 of them were different. And 1 of them was connected by a cord to him sitting in my office in this lifetime. So I was curious. Well, this man has a really strange kind of cancer I had never even heard about. And then I thought, well, let me see what this first dark egg is, because it was dark, like the lights were out. I brought my attention into that egg, and immediately, boom, I found myself in another lifetime. It looked like it was sometime in the 1800s or before. It looked like it was before child labor laws were enacted. It looked like and had the feel that it was in Europe. It was a 2-story wooden structure that looked like a really big barn that was used as a factory, and it was filled, very tightly packed, with women and children into forced labor. And at nighttime, they would lock the barn door so that people wouldn't run away, because virtually they were slaves. And one night, the barn burned down. I see a lamp, an old-fashioned lamp, getting knocked over, kerosene lamp, started the straw on fire, and pretty soon there's all this smoke, and he got killed in that lifetime. So I thought, well, that's curious. Here he has a weird skin disease in this lifetime, and he got burned in that lifetime. Now I bring my attention into the second egg. And in the second egg, I find myself in a completely different place again. It feels like it's India. Again, he feels like he's a little boy. And I'm seeing him very young, where he is being told that he has to lift up a hot boiling oil or water or something in a pot that was way too big for him. And he lost his balance because it was too big, and he doused himself with this hot fluid. Interesting that these 3 eggs that were different, one connected to this lifetime, that the light was still on, one where he had burned himself or had gotten burned in a fire, and another one where he had had liquid burn him. So this was not an accident, and it didn't feel like it was disconnected. Because I didn't know what additional information to get, I said, I'm going to go talk to the big guys, and I'm going to see if I can get additional information for you, Murray. So I close my eyes, I sink into this really quiet, still place filled with this beautiful blue light, this beautiful music that I hear. And I say into this stillness, I have one before me who needs grace, and I request this for him. And I hear this deep Charlton Heston voice echoing like in a sound chamber. So bestow it. And I go, what? And again I hear, so bestow it. And I go, no, I heard you, but we don't talk like that anymore. And I have no clue what you mean about so bestow it. What does this mean? And this deep Charlton Heston voice says, when one comes before you with a sincere heart, they may ask forgiveness from anyone in any space, time, or dimension for forgiveness, and it shall be granted. Now, I am repeating what I'm hearing to Murray, and he bursts into tears. And all of a sudden, my vision changed back to those 30 eggs. He's asking for forgiveness in his tears in the most sincere way I have ever heard anyone ask for forgiveness. But here's what shocked me as a clairvoyant. That bottom right-hand egg, when he showed up in that sincere place, his higher self showed up in the top right above these eggs. And there were 30 golden cords, well, 27 now, 27 golden cords that were connected to these eggs. And as he began to ask for forgiveness, look at the bottom right there, that first egg dropped its cord. It was like a fuse going up, and as soon as the fuse and the cord was gone, that egg disappeared. And then the next egg dropped its cord. It was like a fuse, it went up, and then that egg disappeared until all of the eggs were all gone, except for the 3, the 2 that were already darkened out, and the 1 that was connected to him in this lifetime. Think about this. When you make agreements, you are creating your own karma. This is the strongest story that I can tell you about how you, no one puts it on you, how you create your own karma, how you create your life and your consensus reality. I have known from the time I was 18 years old and had this awakening that we are collectively creating our reality. All of us together. But you are also creating your own suffering, your own pathways. And then when you get into your suffering, you get yourself all tied up into a knot, trying to repair yourself or anchoring in more negativity, more thought forms that are damaging for you. So layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, we are hiding our light. And that's why for Sacred Forgiveness Ceremony, we have a light, because we want to be able to take your light and we want to be able to let it shine. But you can't let it shine if it's covered up and you don't know how to get there. And so we are going to do Sacred Forgiveness Ceremony as a way for you to be able to clear the layers that you have put onto yourself in this lifetime or other lifetimes. The longest pattern that I personally have seen is 7 lifetimes long. It was a man who had committed suicide, and his niece came in to get a reading and was asking, she started crying and going, why did Uncle so-and-so get to go to a better place and we got left behind dealing with all the pain and the embarrassment of this? What's up with that? And so I said, well, let me go check on him and see what's going on. This man was in a room, probably half the size of my filming studio here. There was a man that was in bright white clothing, but the man himself was sitting in a chair and he had this black dome up over his head. And when I showed up there, I looked at the beings. Sometimes they're called medics or helpers or spirit guides. I said, so what's up? What's going on? And they said, he's been here since he got here. In physical timeline, that was 25 years. 25 years that he had been like this in our earth time. And I said, well, why don't you wake him up from this? And they said, we can't. And I said, I'm going to go talk to the big guys. I'll be back. I phased myself, my consciousness, out of that room. And I went back to that beautiful blue space where there is no form. That is your true essence, where there is no form. It's only potential. And I said again, I have before me this beautiful man who has this dome over his head. I want to understand what this is. Instantly, I saw what looked like you take a scissors and you cut out a little cutout man. And on it said the Vietnam War. And then it unlocked and there were 7 little cutout dolls. The last one was the Vietnam War. And so I asked the woman who came to get the reading. I said, did he go to Vietnam? Because if I'm getting this information, I better confirm it. Yes, he did go to Vietnam. And when he came back, he was never the same. And so I was seeing written on every one of these 7 cutout doll shapes, a war. He had repeated the same pattern for 7 lifetimes already. And all of a sudden, my higher self system collapsed all of these dolls back into one. And I had been gifted this golden sword in another experience that I had. And this massive golden sword went and stabbed him right in the solar plexus. It must have, I'm still trying to find the explanation for this, but I know what the result was. When my higher self stabbed him, my lower self was going, "What are you doing?" And then all of a sudden, I found myself back in that little white room. And the black dome was dissolving off of this man. Pretty soon, he kind of woke up and he looked around and he saw his niece like, "What are you doing here?" And he looked at the medic that was behind him, or the spirit guide behind him. And then he looked at me, and the spirit guide said to me, "Thank you. We can take it from here." So over and over, if you are living a repeating pattern, it must be dealt with at the spiritual level. The highest degree of healing is not physical. That is just your survival instinct wanting to live. What you carry with you in your soul pod is memories from this lifetime and all lifetimes. And you carry the good, the bad, and the ugly. When you are going to do real healing and deep clearing of your system so you don't have these repeating patterns, then you need to do sacred forgiveness ceremony. You do it as a gift for yourself. You do it on behalf of children. If you're pregnant, that I want a soul that's coming in, child who's coming in. They're not a child. They're an ancient spiritual being. But as they step down through the energy planes to come into this density, it comes with all these memories. You bring it in with you. How many times, for those of you who are watching this, do you know someone, or someone even in your family, or even your own children, who they came in and you just knew something is not right with their psychology? Oftentimes, these are really good signs that they brought some woundedness in with them. So here we have woundedness from other lifetimes, the woundedness that we have in this lifetime. We don't know how to empower ourselves, and we want to be empowered. We don't like to be in our suffering, and it is not your natural state to be in suffering. Your natural state is to be dancing with the 5 songs of creation, abiding love, joy, wonder, inspiration, gratitude. This is meant to be a playground of eminence, a place where we can experience, create. We have opposable thumbs. We can choose to play as an animal. I'm coming back as my own cat. I love my cat so much. You can come back and join in with the consciousnesses that are mountains. You can be a wind spirit. You don't have to confine yourself to any kind of form. But we think we do because we have forgotten who we are. We are ancient, ancient spiritual beings. And we take a little essence of that and we drop down through that central channel, coming down right into our soul pod to help experience in this lifetime. So we are actually going to be clearing two things when we do sacred forgiveness ceremony. First, we're going to be clearing from this lifetime and in all lifetimes, in this dimension and all dimensions, your soul pod, your soul aspect, and the energy field that is around that. And then, immediately after the breath work on that, we are going to clear the bodysuit, the body pod, because it can reinfect the soul field. So we're going to clear both. Now, I know that this is very effective because it used to be that when I would do a conference and do sacred forgiveness ceremony, I would have to spend 30 to 45 minutes cleaning up the energy garbage that got left behind. And it took a lot out of me to clear all that up. And then one time, the spirits came in, they linked up with me, and I was not doing sacred forgiveness ceremony. It channeled through me, and it was different. It was doing the statements to clear the soul field first, and then it was doing the statements to clear the body field. After that, I changed the complete sacred forgiveness ceremony to do both, because for the first time, I had everyone left. I thanked the spirits and the guides who had helped to hold space for it. And I felt into the room. It was crystal clear. This is a transformational process that I have no words for how profound it is. It is the deepest cellular physical healing you can get, and people have literally had physical healings from doing this work. It is the deepest soul cleaning that you can do. People always are asking me about Murray. What happened to him? Because they're thinking that if he was able to do this clearing, then he should be able to physically heal. Remember that third egg that was connected to his lifetime in this time? He created this lifetime and these experiences. He created these, and he needed to live out the consequences of what he himself imprinted into his field. So be careful of the agreements that you make. Murray finished his PhD. He had had a difficult time in a relationship with his father, but he went back and he healed that relationship with his father, and his father was with him when he passed very peacefully from this life into the next life. So this is soul healing. And the thrilling thing for me is that those 27 eggs, they disappeared. He was no longer making that agreement to suffer. He was liberating himself, just as you can liberate yourself. And you know what? Some of you are not going to like hearing me say this, but I am telling you now, there is no saviors. There are only teachers and guides to show you the way. And Jesus may have been here, not as a savior, but as a way shower. And his last lesson for us was the most profound lesson. And what if he took on that role to teach us the most profound thing that can be taught for your own personal healing and wellness and happiness and joy? I forgive them, for they know not what they do. I forgive them, for they know not what they do. He knew the game. He knew what I'm being shown. He knew that if you can't forgive, then you yourself lock yourself up into repeating cycles and patterns. We are working toward creating this world to be a happier, more balanced and harmonious place. There are millions of people who have incarnated throughout the last century and a half that have been here prepared for this time now. And in order for us to live our strongest, most deep potential, we need to make sure that we clean house. We clean our soul field and we clean our body field. And then we're going to clear out the vows and promises that you've made that no longer serve you. When you do all this deep clearing, then you want to imprint your field. And we will be doing that with this process. Now there's some things that I want to show you for how I set up an altar. So this is an altar for you. Right now, all I have on it is a candle, and the candle represents the light of your physical body. I'm going to add water. Water is what makes up our physical body primarily, but it is also a travel body. You have layers of inner journey travel bodies, and when you have spirit communicators around you, sometimes you'll feel a cool mist. And so we invite in the sacred waters from Kuan Yin. If you see a Kuan Yin, the Asian Mother Mary, you could call her, you will always see her with a vessel that looks very much like this, and she's either holding it like this or she's pouring it down. She's oftentimes in an ocean, representing that sometimes life is a wild ride, and it represents deep compassion. We have spirit communicators, ascended masters, beings that we can't even imagine right now, that are higher level dimensional beings, that are ourselves in our future. And they are coming back here now to assist you to be the best you that you can be. And so Kuan Yin represents that energy, that there is always compassion pouring down onto humanity. So there is never a time, no matter how wicked you have been, no matter how you have judged yourself, no matter how you have bleeped up your life, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You did that because you did not know who you were. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. You were not knowing what you did. The architects of reality are coming back to share this information now so you can remember who you are. And there is always compassion available for you, no matter who you are. So trust me on that piece. Now, I always add in images of the Divine Mother. So I'm going to take these cards and put these in the center here. For Sacred Forgiveness Ceremony, I was told to make link-ups with goddesses. We have in our Western culture Mother Mary. The Eastern culture has Kuan Yin with that water element, and it's really up to you. Something else that I put on here is salt. Salt is called the transformational crystal. So anytime you're feeling like something isn't moving or shifting, remember, everything is thought forms, and so you have to use the geometric formula for transformation to create these thought forms. So you have visualized, energized with your emotion, and named things. Salt, when you sprinkle salt, and I usually just use etheric salt or invisible salt. I imagine I have a bowl of salt, and sometimes I'll sprinkle it on things that feel stuck so that it can release like a catalytic response, so that that energy can go back to just neutral potential energy. So I put salt here. I was gifted some sacred ash from Sai Baba in India. Many miracles with Sai Baba. I put on just special things. Put special things on your altar that is meaningful to you. This has got some sacred tobacco in it that was grown in ceremony by the First Nations people very north in Canada, where they would not allow anybody but the shamans to work with this tobacco. So I have that. I have my sacred geometry, because for me, everything falls in patterns. I have the I Am Love poem that we will be reading as a part of this. I have an Om symbol. Now, when I get symbolism, I never go and look in books. I don't look in reference guides, nothing. I don't want to be poisoned by what other people have perceived the symbols mean. So I sit with them in meditation, and I might sit for months, weeks, years, until all of a sudden it comes to me what it is. For me, what came is that the Om symbol is the representation of our perfect song. And so sacred forgiveness ceremony is a tune-up, a tuning you in to the high frequencies of abiding love, joy, wonder, inspiration, and gratitude. What other little goodies do I have here? I have a book that I created called Way of the Lotus Flower. I created it so that it had a spine on it, that it would make it really easy to be able to just go and do the work without having to do a lot of fussing trying to hold a book open. I am planning on having a PDF for you so that you can have the statements. Sometimes the statements are modified from what I am going to read from here right now. Also, you'll be able to have a PDF with the vows and promises that no longer serve you. Those also are getting changed from time to time as I continue to get information, because I'm always trying to find the best statements, the best way for you to release. I call in my guides close to me. Show me right in my face in concrete and delightful ways that you are in my life. So I know without doubt I am not alone or without clear guidance. When you reach out, they reach back, and you have magic things that happen. One woman who started saying this prayer walked into her house in the dead middle of winter, and for hours had a blue dragonfly flying around her. I could tell you so many miracle stories, but I look forward to hearing yours as you do this work. This is Ellie Drew, your clairvoyant researcher, and I look forward to the magic that is going to be happening in your life when you do the work. Until next time, blessings.